All right, guys, we began the night with 32 picks. 32 picks are now in the NFL Draft's first round. Andy, give us your favorite.
The first one. They didn't overthink it. I was being a little facetious when we started, when I said, when you're trying to evaluate these quarterbacks, pick the guy who was best at playing football when they all played football. But that's what they did. That was Baker Mayfield. He's the one you didn't have to talk yourself into. And the Browns did a great job not talking themselves out of him, because you just look at the performance on the field. Yes, he's shorter than you'd want, but he checks all the other boxes. He processes quickly. He operates well. Competitiveness, the way his teammates feel about him, the way his coaches feel about him that he's worked with, he's what you want there. And you would have had to do a lot more talking yourself into the other guys, but they didn't overthink it. They took the guy who was the best on the field when it mattered. And I think that's all you can do. Look, it's quarterback. There's a really good chance you're going to be wrong anyway. But at least you didn't overthink this.
All right, Jonathan?
It's got to be, if the first pick is your favorite, the last pick is the favorite of mine. It's Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. I love that he went in the first round. I love that he went to the Baltimore Ravens. When you look at him, does he have deficiencies? Absolutely. But is he also the only guy in this draft who can play like Lamar Jackson? There's no doubt about it. He's the fastest quarterback since Michael Vick. He can throw the ball well. He needs to work on his timing, of course. That's why he goes to a place like the Baltimore Ravens at the 32nd pick, where they have an established starter in Joe Flacco, but not a guy who's going to be there for the next 10 years. He may not be there after 2 years. And then Lamar Jackson is going to be able to show what he has in training camp during the weeks when Joe Flacco was starting. He is clearly the established starter, like I said, but Marty Morningway, the offensive coordinator who's worked with Michael Vick, Greg Roman, an assistant who's worked with Colin Kaepernick, they are going, and then you have RG3 who's also there, so it's not just like some gimmicky offense. You have two quarterbacks who play similar styles of quarterback. That is going to work out very well for Lamar. So in 2018, is he the quarterback of the future for the Baltimore Ravens? No, absolutely not. It's Joe Flacco right now. But they can get out from underneath his contract in a couple of years, and with the fifth-year option on him, that's a really good deal for the Baltimore Ravens.
We'll be 3 for 3 here on quarterbacks. I love the Jets getting Sam Darnold at number 3. They were patient, and they were aggressive to begin with, and they're patient. They let the draft come to them. And they didn't overthink this. They took the player who I think most teams would have taken with a quarterback need with the first overall pick. And one hidden thing with Darnold that's really interesting to me, he hasn't even played that much quarterback. Like, he was a linebacker his sophomore year in high school. He was a great basketball player in high school. He's an athlete, you know, and more than that, like, just the way he carries himself screams franchise quarterback to me. You hear so many stories about the things that he's done for his teammates. You know, I had an opportunity to meet him out in California last summer, and I'm out there with Norv Turner, and we're doing, you know, this kind of trip around California and Ohio to go. This is Norv's first summer out of football, right? And so the idea was we were going to have Norv go and talk with Sam Darnold. We'd been to the Chargers and the Rams earlier in the day, and we didn't know if we were going to make it out there. So we walk up to USC practice. All the kids are coming off the field. And there's Clay Helton. Norv calls over Clay. Clay calls over Sam. You know, Norv's a football coach, so he's looking at his watch the whole time and saying, like, well, after about 5 minutes, says, well, I'm sure you need to get inside, and you got meetings, you got dinner. And Sam looked over at Clay Helton, and he said, well, as long as he's here, I'm good. And I want to ask you about Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees. And then they wound up talking about Troy Aikman. And the kid just like didn't even know Norv was necessarily coming that day. The first thing he thought of was, I'm going to get something out of this conversation. And if you talk to enough people about Sam Darnold, it's like a Peyton Manning, Tom Brady thing. Like, they're wired a certain way. And I think Sam Darnold has that, which will serve him well playing in the New York market. And I think because he's got that way about him, he's a great fit to come here and stabilize the franchise. And ultimately, I think what we saw the last 2 years at USC, he's scratching the surface of where he can go because he hasn't played quarterback for that long. And there's a lot of work that can be done in his game.
All right, quarterbacks across the board for this trio here. Let's bring the PFF guys, Steve Palazzolo, Mike Renner. You guys have been analyzing picks throughout the first round. Give us your favorites from round 1.
Mike? I'm going to go with Derwin James, the safety for Florida State, got drafted 17th overall by the Chargers. You look at value. We had Derwin as the top 5 player on our board, go 17th. You look at need. The Chargers lost Trey Boston this offseason, had a need at safety. And then you look at scheme fit, that cover 3, that Seattle cover 3, that Cam Chancellor role in it. Derwin can execute that and more because he's a better athlete than Cam Chancellor is. He can do anything you ask of him on a defensive side of the ball. And now they have this elite talent on defense, whether it be Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Casey Hayward, even Jason Verrett when healthy. Add in another piece like that, and the guy we think is going to be a perennial Pro Bowler, Derwin James, and you have a scary, scary defense for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, I'm going with a similar defensive player. It's Minkah Fitzpatrick going to the Miami Dolphins. I mean, you talk about Derwin James and his versatility. Minkah was right there with him, and I do think the fit for the Miami Dolphins, when they're playing the New England Patriots twice a year, and you have to deal with Rob Gronkowski, you have to deal with now Sony Michel coming out of the backfield, you have to deal with slot receivers. Minkah Fitzpatrick is a perfect defender for the NFL these days. He can cover the slot, and he has the experience covering the slot in that Alabama system. He gets in there and he plays the run as well as any corner in this entire draft. So Minkah can do it all. I love the versatility all across the defense, and in that division especially, the ability to cover tight ends, the ability to cover slot receivers. Minkah Fitzpatrick, a great fit for the Miami Dolphins, who simply need playmakers on that defensive side of the ball. Minkah was number 10 on our board. He goes at 11, so the value matched up. That'll do it. That is the PFF and SI top players, top picks from the NFL Draft.